हेलो दोस्तों, बिगनर्स पॉइंट में आपका स्वागत है। और अभी हम कर रहे हैं इकोनॉमी, जो कौन सा चैप्टर है, पांचवा। इससे पहले के चैप्टर और क्लासेस 9th से लेकर के 12th तक की जो क्लासेस चल रही हैं वो नहीं देखी तो प्लेलिस्ट बनी हुई है, जा करके आप देख सकते हैं। रूरल डेवलपमेंट, ठीक है। Only the tillers of the soil live by the right, the rest from their drain and eat only the bread of dependence. Introduction. Previously, we have studied how poverty was a major challenge facing India. We also know that the majority of the poor live in rural areas where they do not have access to the basic necessities of life. Agriculture is the major source of livelihood in the rural sector. Mahatma Gandhi once said that the real progress of India did not mean simply the growth and expansion of industrial urban centers, but mainly the development of the villages. This idea of village development being at the center of the overall development of the nation is relevant even today. Why is this so? Why should we attach such significance to rural development when we see around us fast growing cities with large industries and modern information technology hubs? It is because more than two-thirds of India's population depends on agriculture that is yet to become productive enough to provide for them. One-fourth of rural India still lives in abject poverty. That is the reason why we have to see a developed rural India. If our nation has to realize real progress, what then does a rural development imply? What is rural development? Rural development is a comprehensive term. It essentially focuses on action for the development of areas that are aging behind, lagging, that is, that are lagging, पीछे छोड़ना, behind in the overall development of the village economy. Some of the areas which are challenging and need fresh initiatives for development in rural India include development of human resources, including literacy, more especially specifically female literacy, education and skill development, health, addressing both sanitation and sanitation, मतलब सफाई के उपकरण, sanitation health and public health. फिर आ जाते हैं लैंड रिफॉर्म्स, डेवलपमेंट ऑफ द प्रोडक्टिव रिसोर्सेज ऑफ ईच लोकेलिटी, इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर डेवलपमेंट लाइक इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, इरिगेशन, credit marketing, transport facilities including construction of village roads and feeder roads to nearby highways, facilities for agriculture, research and extension, and information dissemination. डिससेमिनेशन मतलब हो जाता है प्रचार करना. स्पेशल मेजर्स, special measure for alleviation of poverty and bringing about significant improvement in the living conditions of the weaker sections of the population, emphasizing access to productive employment opportunities. All this means that people engaged in the farm and not farm activities in rural areas have to be provided with various means that help them increase the productivity. They also need to be given opportunities to diversify into various non-farm productive productive activities such as food processing, enabling them better and more affordable access to healthcare, sanitation facilities at workplaces and homes, and education for all would also need to be given top priority for rapid rural development. It was observed in an earlier chapter that although the share of agriculture sector's contribution to GDP was on a decline. The population dependent on this sector did not show any significant change. Further, after the initiation of reforms, the growth rate of agriculture sector decelerated to about 3% per annum during the 1991 to 2012, which was lower than the earlier years. In recent years, this sector has become volatile. During 2023-24, the GVA growth rate of agriculture and its allied sectors was about 2%. Scholars identify decline in public investments since 1991 as the major reason for this. They also argue that inadequate infrastructure, lack of alternate employment opportunities in the industry or service sector, increasing casualization of employment, etc., further impeded rural development. The impact of this phenomenon can be seen from the growing distress witnessed among farmers across different parts of India. Against this background, we will critically look at some of the crucial aspects of rural India like credit and marketing systems, agriculture diversification, and the role of organic farming in promoting sustainable development. Credit and marketing in rural areas. Credit growth of rural economy depends primarily on infusion of capital from time to time. To realize higher productivity in agriculture and non-agriculture sectors has the time of gestation period between crop sowing and realization of income after production is quite long. Farmers borrow from various sources to meet their initial investment on seeds, fertilizers, implements, and other family expenses of marriage, death, religious ceremon- ceremonies, etc. At the time of independence, moneylenders and traders exploited small and marginal farmers and landless laborers by lending to them on high interest rates and by manipulating the accounts to keep them in a debt trap. A major change occurred after 1969 when India adopted social banking and multi-agency approach to adequately meet the needs of rural credit. Later the National Bank for Agriculture and Rural Development क्या है NABARD was set up in 1982 as an apex body to coordinate the activities of all institutions involved in the rural financing system. The Green Revolution was a harbinger of major changes in the credit system as it led to the diversification of the portfolio of rural credit towards production-oriented lending. The institutional sector of rural banking today consists of a set of multi-agency institutions, namely commercial banks, regional rural banks (RRBs), cooperatives, and land development banks. They are expected to dispense adequate credit at cheaper rates. Recently, self-help groups, henceforth SHG, have emerged to fill the gap in the formal credit system because the formal credit delivery mechanism has not only proven inadequate but has also not been fully integrated into the overall rural, social, and community development. Since some kind of collateral is required, vast proportion of poor rural households were automatically out of the credit network. The SHG promote thrift in small proportions by a minimum contribution from each member. From the pooled money, credit is given to the needy members to be repayable in small installments at reasonable interest rates. By May 2019, nearly 6 crores 6 crore women in India have become member in 54 lakh women SSG groups, about 10 to 15,000 per SSG and another 2.5 lakh rupees per SHG as a community investment support fund. क्या बोलते हैं इसे? Community investment support fund are provided हैज़ पार्ट ऑफ रिनोवेटिंग यानी कि दोबारा एक तरीके से बनाना रिनोवेटिंग fund to take up self-employment for income generation. Such credit provisions are generally referred to as microcredit programs. SHGs have helped in the empowerment of women. It is alleged that the borrowing are mainly confined to consumption purposes. Why are borrowers not spending for productive purposes? Rural banking, a critical appraisal. Rapid expansion of the banking system had a positive effect on rural farm and non-farm output, income and employment, especially after the Green Revolution. It helped farmers to avail services and credit facilities and a variety of loans for meeting their production needs. Famines became event of the past. Akal became the event of the past. We have achieved food security which is reflected in the abundant buffer stock of grains. However, all is not well with our banking system, with the possible exception of the commercial banks. Other formal institutions have failed to develop a culture of deposit mobilization, lending to worthwhile borrowers, and effective loan recovery. Agricultural loan default rates have been high, chronically high. Why farmers fail to pay back loans? It is alleged that farmers are deliberately refusing to pay back loans. What could be the reasons? Thus, the expansion and promotion of the rural banking sector has taken a back seat after reforms. To improve the situation in recent years, all the adults are encouraged to open bank accounts as a part of a scheme known as Jan Dhan Yojana. Those bank accounts holders can get rupees 1 to 2 lakh accidental insurance coverage, and overdraft facilities for rupees 10,000 and get their wages if they get any government related jobs and works under Manrega. Old age pension and other social security payments of the governments are transferred to bank accounts. There is no need to keep minimum bank balance. This has led to more than 50 crore people opening bank accounts. Indirectly, it has promoted thrift habit and efficient allocation of financial resources, particularly in rural areas. Banks also could mobile bank funds of more than 2 lakh crore rupees through these accounts. Agriculture market system. Have you ever asked yourself how food grains, vegetables, and fruits that we consume daily come from different parts of the country? The mechanism through which these goods reach different places depends on the market channels. Agriculture marketing is a process that involves the assembling, storage, processing, transportation, packaging, grading, and distribution of different agricultural commodities across the country. Prior to independence, farmers, while selling their produce to traders, suffered from faulty weighing and manipulation of accounts. Farmers who did not have the required information on prices prevailing in markets were often forced to sell at low prices. They also did not have proper storage facilities to keep back their produce for selling later at a better price. Do you know that even today, more than 10% of goods produced in farms are wasted due to lack of storage. Therefore, government intervention become necessary to regulate the activities of the private traders. Let us discuss four such measures that were initiated to improve the marketing aspects. The first step was regulation of markets to create orderly and transparent marketing conditions. By and large, this policy benefited farmers as well as consumers. However, there is still a need to develop about 27,000 rural periodic markets has regulated marketplaces to realize the full potential of rural markets. Second component is provision of physical infrastructure facilities like roads, railways, warehouses, godowns, cold storage, processing units. The current infrastructure facilities are quite inadequate to meet the growing demand and need to be improved. Cooperative marketing and realizing fair prices for farmers' products is the third aspect of government initiative. The success of milk cooperatives in transforming the social and economic landscape of Gujarat and some other parts of the country is testimony, gavahi, to the role of cooperatives. However, cooperatives have received a setback during the recent past due to inadequate coverage of farmer members, lack of appreciate appropriate link between marketing and processing cooperatives and inefficient financial management. The fourth element is the policy instruments like एश्योरेंस ऑफ मिनिमम सपोर्ट प्राइस एमएसपी लागू होना चाहिए किस पर एग्रीकल्चर प्रोडक्ट्स पर सेकंड मेंटेनेंस ऑफ बफर स्टॉक ऑफ व्हीट एंड राइस इसको मेंटेनेंस करके चलना चाहिए किसको व्हीट और राइस के बफर स्टॉक को बाय फूड कॉरपोरेशन ऑफ इंडिया disruption of food grains and sugars through PDS. These instruments are aimed at protecting the income of farmers and providing food grains at a subsidies rate to the poor. However, despite government intervention, private trade by moneylenders, rural political elites, big merchants, and rich farmers predominates dominates agricultural markets. The need for government intervention is imminent. सन्निकट पास का when particularly when a large share of agriculture products is handled by the private sector. Agriculture marketing has come a long way with the intervention of the government in various forms. Some scholars argue that commercialization of agriculture offers tremendous scope for farmers to earn higher incomes, provided the government intervention is restricted. What do you think about this view? और इसके ये वाला इसके आगे पढ़ेंगे अब कल.